Hey guys, talk about SNGX. Obviously, um, really just took one trade on it. Took the long trap short at open. This was really interesting because a lot of bearish factors going into the play. Hyper aggressive move in the market open, opening near its highs. Now we did get a mini walk down in the open. These have potential to push. They also often have potential to long trap below high day. We saw on COS day two had an aggressive market open move, push and slam. VVPR had an aggressive move and slam. Zap yesterday had an aggressive move and slam, even though that one ended up reclaiming. So I was keeping that little micro short pattern in mind. This was perfect up to the sevens here, short in the 6.9s. Great trade, great book. Um, just we'll talk about chart paint, right? This is a classic example of multiple long traps squeezing, right? Long trap and a short trap is always how these extended tickers keep pushing. Um, so this was a play that was really interesting because we had multiple people in my room hit the long, where I was covering here, hit the long after the 9:45 candle, and they made a bunch of money on it. And then we had people take the same short. So this is interesting that your bias determines your entry, right? Your bias on the play determines how, what entries you're looking for, where you get in, and how you manage risk, right? And we've seen that, especially on extended tickers, that if you're going to short long trap pushes, the bullish thesis is always going to be that it's contributing to some type of chart paint for a rotation later on, right? Um, so always got to keep that in mind. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Let's just look at the chart really fast. So I mean, this was just 1 minute 20 straight up. There's really no entries here. I mean, they're putting, if we go to the book on SNGX, just tons and tons of bids. Look at increasing volume, new highs, increasing volume, new highs, increasing volume, new highs. Bullish factor, bid follow up, bullish factor. Right? We'll just go to the. We'll just go. This thing just had tons bids here, bids here, bids here. More bids, more bids, more, more bids. I mean, where's the short on this pre-market? It's just giving micro lower highs in the bids, right? Just dump in the bids. Like, look at this classic dump into triple stack bids. Pretty crazy. Here's 1 minute 20. Here's a 1 minute 20 walk down. This is over here on this walk down. 3 layers of bids, rotate straight up. Even though I was potentially making reads on, maybe there's a failed 1 minute 20 rotation. Maybe one of these pushes lacks bid follow up, but it just went up only. Didn't even stall. Just literally went up only. So now we have new high, new high, new high, new high, increasing volume, increasing volume. But pretty extended into the top of the, sometimes in low float land, you get crazy aggressiveness on the book, in the pre-market, and then market open comes and they slam it, right? And so that's the thesis behind this long, right? So as you see, it's walked down with lower highs here, rotates, swipes 7. Really nice book. So again, a lot of times, yeah, there's a lack of bids over here, but when I start to get closer to market open, unless there's some A plus type of long trap, like, there's like 4 layers of ass that gets filled and some ultra aggressive move towards highs with no bid. You can make a read, but overall, if I just see choppiness, choppy grind before market open, I just want to see what the overall structure is, right? In this case, I'm noting the walk down. Like, okay, lower high walk down in the open, and then I'm just waiting for market open, right? If there's nothing there. So here is the market open push. You'll see why me and about 8 other people in my room took the short, my Discord room. Information down below in the description if you want to learn about it. But yeah, well, nice market open knife in the bids, hyper aggressive rotation, no bids following it up. They were actually pulling some ask, which is potentially potentially bullish, right? When a bunch of asks below high day were holding a stock down get pulled. But I mean, I saw the 7 swipe, and I was looking at this reaction. I just shorted into this reaction here. Just a lack bid follow up, this little micro push that failed. And I was like, yeah, I mean, this is a nice little long trap low highs. But yeah, we'll go over to this chart, right? We'll go over here. So the interesting thing about this candle is this candle. This candle's most interesting. So quick dump, this is SSR, so quick dump. SSR, I consider SSR to be a minor bullish factor, specifically on these quick dump patterns or these walk downs, right? Because it's very easy to visualize where shorts are loading up on their averages, and they were purposely holding 6. So purposely holding 6, purposely holding 6. And then it did this mini clear out move where it hit 6. It actually knifed all the way down to 5.5 and started soaking. And what's interesting about these clear out moves is when you get these type of like short trappy clear out moves where there's still a lot of where it's essentially too far away from high day and there's a lot of empty spaces to rotate into, I actually consider that to be quite bullish. If you know, depending on what the reaction after this mini clear out is, right? I linked an old chart to UCAR because this chart actually reminded me of UCAR in some ways, from back in back over here. You might hear my daughter in the background. Am I blind? There we go. Here's another example. UCAR, crazy push, actually very similar to SNGX in many ways. But this type of move, right? These like little clear out, painted clear out moves that are like super far away from painted levels, painted lower highs, super far away from high day. Has a lot of rotation potential, right? So given, going back to SNGX over here, I knew there was lower high chart pain here, right? This candle, I knew this lower high that I shorted contributes to the chart paint for the rotation. So when this starts to rotate, when this rejection starts to throw up bids and take out this 625, 627 guy, this lower high, I actually just decided to get out completely. I was like, well, maybe I'll get out and make a second read. But yeah, it's here's that $6 knife. Here's the bids they threw it up into, and they had some mini bids, some follow-up bids. I'm just like, this is so and I saw this follow-up bid into these guys getting taken out, and I'm just like, I'm gonna get out because of the lower high chart paint. So it squeezes. Actually felt pretty good. I made like $1 a share or something, or maybe a little less, but it was really nice. On that play, I was aggressively covering under 6 and at 6. So, but yeah, here's another one. This is the trade that I actually missed because it happened so fast on SSR. Is this play? So again, we got new highs on increasing volume, so that's still bullish, but we got a nice little walk down to the 1-minute 50, right? Nice little symmetrical walk down. And on these high volume plays, I always assume, you know, we saw on these fake 5-minute flags that have been working recently, we've seen these like micro controlled walk downs into a nice rotation. And this candle at 10:16 was actually really nice. And I just missed it because it happened so fast. Which is this. All these asks getting filled with no bid follow-up, straight off the 1-minute 50. I also like these low volume. I like when you get these hyper-aggressive moves off of support, and then you get like this consolidation on the 1 minute. These little pushes can be huge retail traps, right? In the right context, these could be massive. We see this on ATNF, which was a ticker I didn't even trade today. But like you'll see it, here's an extreme example off of something like here, right? Crazy high volume move, and then the low volume 1 minute consolidation and these little 1 minute flag breakouts can be very. Now this was actually a huge miss. I thought I actually passed on this. I could have shorted this, but I was like, oh man, I'm so far away from high day. I'm not going to short this. And then I failed to count that it was actually still up pretty. You know, this went up like 200 something percent. And there's still a lot of range to the downside, right? I just didn't want to make that read here. But even here to here, that's a 20% move. But you get the basic idea, right? high volume aggressive push off the support. And then the retail 1 minute flag chase. I like it when it makes new highs like this too. Those are the best reads. I just passed on it because I thought the range was kind of weird. So going back to SNGX, right? It's the name today. So yeah, I passed on this move. And again, it's the same thing where a lot of times the 5 minute flag long that people take doesn't work. But now we have increasing volume on new highs and we have lower high chart paint. So that actually, when it starts to rotate back up here, I actually think this is incredibly bullish, right? Because of the reaction to this not working, right? We got a few lower lows, but now that we have additional chart paint, I don't want to short 8.5s because now, especially on a stock with this type of volume, making this type of aggressive moves, now this is essentially almost invalidating, right? Invalidating this long trap pattern. And that's why we get, they put in another, they purposely hold it under 8.5, and then they do this massive boner candle, right? 8.5 paint, 8.5 paint, high dates right here, massive squeeze. And then here, I actually thought I wasn't really kicking myself too much over this one, but this was the one. Getting back to UCAR. Look at how UCAR ended up topping. This is why it reminded me of it right up here. Now, this was a little different. This was extended more, and this was at 1 p.m. instead of happening earlier in the day. I generally like it when long trap moves happen later in the day if we're going to be shorting super strong stocks. But yeah. I actually avoided. So this was a clean flag. This was a clean midday flag. This candle at 11 only went up to 11.5. Your chart might show 11.7. That was a single order. So we had 11.5 paint, 11.5 paint, 11.4 paint, clean midday flag. I'm like, oh man, this is your classic midday long trap. By the way, at midday, like a lot of times, like look, high day gets put in at 10:52. This move happens at 11:30, right? I always go over that, how midday structures a lot of times also, which makes this move a little scarier, right? Because this is earlier in the move, right? We have a stock making new highs, new highs, new highs. And this move is happening about 10 minutes after high day. You can still make reads on these plays. There's plenty of times where they fade, but sometimes you do benefit by waiting longer, right? Which is why it wasn't like I'm not hitting this candle or this candle, right? I'm waiting for, usually waiting about half an hour at least. I've said 45 to 90 minutes in the past. That's also still holds in many ways. But yeah, the reason I avoided this short, even though it was actually great, was great from the chart perspective. From the book perspective, they actually put some follow-up. They put a single follow-up bidder that kind of scared me. It was on it was this guy. And I mentioned that single follow-up bidders with nothing below them is still pretty bearish. But I thought that for some reason I just thought it was going to keep squeezing, man. Even though this is perfect. The support swipe into a massive initiation towards highs. I saw this this was doing some crazy high volatility stuff. I wanted to wait a little bit. And then after waiting a little bit, I saw the bid and the buying come in. I'm like, oh man, I guess it's going to go straight up. And then it ended up stalling and knifing. And I was like, man, I didn't. And this is how, I approach it, is when I'm not in moves like this at 850 or this above 1150, I just don't trade it. If I'm just not in that average, I just assume I missed the move, right? Even if Jason, there's such huge potential to the downside. Can't you chase out of this? So it's not the way I trade. So yeah, I passed on that, and it's the same thing, man. It's the same thing as before, where now 12 is super painted. 12, 12, 12. Massive, massive chart paint. And then we get some very controlled selling. Now, this is the move that was absolutely crazy. I knew they were holding it below 11, holding it below 11, holding it below 11, lower highs below 11. I'm like, all right. A possible rigged move is they come and tack these lower highs at 11 and they pull it, right? And there are higher lows going into this push, which is also usually bearish, right? And you initially get Um, a great candle, right? You get an $11 swipe into a pull. Now this was also super fast. Um, so I was also not in this play, but then I saw the reaction. And I'm like, oh my god, this is a good example of like you need to know what the reaction should be, right? If you're going to be shorting these high volume plays, especially with a lot of range, you need to know it's like, okay, if I'm taking this $11 short, what's the liquidity thesis? The liquidity thesis is saying is hyperextended, tons of higher lows, tons of aggression. It only has enough liquidity to swipe 11. It'll come back and attack these higher lows and fade, right? That's the thesis. So the way I was explaining it to my room and a few people DMing me, because obviously a lot of short sellers will take losses on this name. Um, I was like, you need to understand what the reaction is supposed to be, and you can adjust your risk management based on the chart pain. For example, if you're short this candle over here, right, 8.5, instead of risking high day, you can even risk the previous lower high because the fact that they swiped 8.5 makes an 8.5 rotation super super strong, right? Especially with the additional lower high. The more you stack lower highs right next to each other, the more likely you're going to get these big green candles, right? These 7.9 to 9.7. Also, man, these stocks above $5-6 that do this stuff like KOS, KOSS, MLGO, SNGX, these plays like that are making new highs on increasing volume in the morning, that are above $5, man, they have like they have this type of aggressiveness on the tape, in a price action where you could see it over here where it's making like 20, 15, 20% moves in single candles up and down, like hyper volatility, expanding, and also the range expansion. Look at this, like this range is at 7.3s. We get all the way up to the high eights, and this range is at high point eights. We get all the way up to the 12s. Like these like massive range expansion moves on these plays are especially short trappy, man. Like, cause I'm trying to think like what situation would shorting like this type of candle or this type of candle make sense, right? The ones that kind of just the ones that kind of just reject the first 1 minute 50 rotation they give and fade. Now, obviously, I think weaker market conditions would help, but I would also think something that's a little more constrained in terms of its range, right? Where you might have a stock that's gapped up, say 70% in the open, gives one short squeeze, is up 90 to 100%, and then gives this type of move and fades, right? Like, but on these plays where it seems like you get massive range expansion with higher high, higher high, higher high, and increasing volume, where you're getting like 20, 30% squeezes past levels on a stock that's already gapped up 200%, I'm noticing it's somehow ironically bullish. The fact that it's up higher and expanding its range in an increasing manner like this somehow makes it's one of its counterintuitive things. Like that's what I'm leaning towards. Plays like this. That's why the cost had a little backside thingy today. Plays with this massive range expansion, right? Right here, but and then not to mention the higher highs. The higher high, higher high, and the walk down is so potentially bullish. And then this play, right, where the top of the range is 5.3s and it's expanding all the way, even up here, all the way into like the mid eights. And high day from pre-market was 5.4. We're getting into the mid eights. Again, like this, and you're getting these 10% candles, these high, like look at this entire candle's range is like 20% in one candle. And he's above $5 M. This is something I'm just trying to remember. And I pointed that out to my Discord. I was like, yeah, like KOS and MLGO kind of fall under this category. So something I was trying to pay in mind. But yeah, I thought this could have been strong. I just avoided it. And also, the problem with this is like the only concern with shorting this is also factoring in the $12 paint and rotation potential. But I could see why people still took it. But in this case, I would have, if I shorted this, I would have got out on this reclaim just because of how painted $12 is to the left. And yeah, Jesus, man, look at this green candle. These aggressive high day squeezes. There's definitely edge in shorting these, by the way, on these ultra aggressive high day squeezes that kind of top right away. I'm just not very good at doing them. You know what I mean? I think you need wider risk. I think you need a short at the top of this move and risk like 10-20%. You know, risk like in the mid high 15s somewhere. Probably makes sense. But I tend to avoid it just because it's not really my style. But yeah, man, a lot of long traps and short traps. I mean, every single move is like that here into this rotation. Even this little mini $6 pillar. The fake 5-minute flag into the soak. Another fake 5-minute flag into the soak. Does this crazy move? This clear out also decently below high day. And then yeah, I mean, not much else to say. So my daughter's talking in the background. It's cracking me up. Yeah, this one was so fast. They swiped through 16. It held up there for maybe like, I don't know, 10 seconds and just pulled. Could have made a read, but yeah, I mean, getting out. And on these crazy manipulation plays, there really isn't even a whole lot of, besides like one micro book flip right here, a lot of times there isn't even a lot of bids. I'm convinced the market maker is just market ordering it straight back up. That's literally what I'm convinced it's doing. You know, bids on the knife, but no bids on the push. So anyways, that's it. That's really it for today on this name. Got lucky with just not shorting some of these long trap pushes. This was the one I was kind of mad about missing the most. I was like, man. I was like, I'm so dumb. I was like, that type of price action is so typical. You know what I mean? It's like, why didn't I hit that? It's like, why was I scared by a single bidder when there's nothing under him? But it ended up getting pretty lucky, even though, I mean, if your average is up here, your average is in the 1170s, and by the time this rotation comes, 12 is so painted that you just have to, I mean, look how aggressive, look at that. Look how instantaneous that squeeze was. The more painted a level like that is, the more likely it is. And also, the book pretty empty. Look at the book above 12 here. If you're short 12, or if you're risking 12, there's like nothing on the book above this, man. Just a relatively empty book, so super scary. Scary when you know everyone's risking the same level, and the book is like, well, there's no ask above that level. So, from a market maker perspective, I understand, you know, why they would rig something like it. So, anyways, that's it for today, guys. Hopefully it was informative and, you know, crazy market. A lot of intraday runners, a lot of reclaims, but I still think on the extended stocks, it's still just long trap and short trap potential. I mean, nothing about this was really overly surprising. It does suck, man. It does suck when you get hyperextension, and you get patterns like fake 5-minute flags that look great, but then the reaction isn't what you want. Like this is a nice short. I don't blame anyone to take 850s or the other short or this one, right? Or this one. Really, really nice. Just how it is sometimes, right? Every market has these types of tickers that come in and give you great looking shorts on the book and that type of thing. So anyways, hope that was helpful, guys. And information down below about the Discord. I'll see you tomorrow.